Well, so I guess you've listened to the majority leaders' retelling of that history. Why they believe that perhaps Dr. Bawumia, and Nancy put it very succinctly, that a Nodna paved the way. So it may be the best time to put a Nodna through. But the question is also being asked. Then when you're talking about the Northern People's Party, why are you not mentioning Dr. Bawumia's father, who was also one of the people who were actively in the Northern People's Party? What's the history there?
What's the history in relation to who? Dr. Bawumia's father?
The history in relation to the role that was played by Dr. Bawumia's father and also Dombo. Question is being asked. So, Northern People's Party, Dr. Bawumia's father, ALHAJI MUMUNI Bawumia, was a key player in there, an influential member. But whenever they are talking about the Northern People's Party, the MPP never mentions Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's father. They mention Dombo and seem to say that Dr. Bawumia is perhaps enjoying the work of Dombo, and they never mention Dr. Bawumia's father. We just wanted to understand whether the majority leaders' telling of the story is accurate.
Well, you see, this is very interesting because the UP, the MPP tradition has been falsifying our history for such a long time. They cannot avoid falsifying their own history. But if they must bring in Dr. Bawumia's father, then they must acknowledge that he was a traitor.
He was a traitor?
Yes.
How?
Well, the background to this is that the NLM have been formed as basically a political platform for the independence of Ashanti-Man. And, you know, I don't know how much time you have for these matters because...
Doc, please go ahead. Please go ahead. We are listening.
Well, because, I mean, if you really want to understand how all these things come together, you must understand a bit of our history, pre-colonial history, that before the British colonization, Ashanti-Man was the biggest political entity in this space we now call Ghana. Ashanti was an empire laying claim to all the land up to the sea, and to land further north, including Dagbon, and even spilling over our current borders into Togo and Benin and Cote d'Ivoire. That was Ashanti. It was an empire built to control of the slave trade that made it wealthy, that made it to expand. And it brought it into direct contention with the states on the coast for control of the trade, the slave trade, and other trade. In fact, our beginning as a former British colony that many people mark with the Bond of 1844. The Bond of 1844 was a protective pact between the coastal Fanti states and the British against Ashanti-Man. So, when the talk about independence came up, for Ashanti-Man, independence meant claiming back their territories and the rights that they had before they were defeated by the British. I don't know whether I'm making sense or not.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But then you also have in this space that we now call Ghana, at least 50 to 60 ethnicities, what we call tribes. And a key plank of Nkrumah's Ghana project was building one nation out of all these ethnicities. Now, what should have happened in power with a negotiation with the British for independence should have been a conversation among these ethnicities about the future shape of the new country. That did not happen. Why? Because the NLM, which was the instrument for Asante independence, made sure it did not come on through boycotts, through terrorism, attacks on Nkrumah and the governor. But after a certain point, the Asante was declared a no-go area for Nkrumah and the governor. Now, the NLM itself had been formed on the basis of a fatwa, or the invocation of the great oath of Asante man, that made it treason for any Asante youth to belong to the CPP. That is how the NLM, which is the parent of today's MPP, was birthed as a vehicle for Asante independence. Now, one of the favorite tactics of the NLM was to use the so-called Northern Territory boys in their acts of violence. I don't know whether I'm making sense or not.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was this strategy of using the Northern boys, they call them NT boys, Northern Territory boys, for violence, to throw bombs and things. That was what Bawumia's father made. He revealed that to Nkrumah and the CPP. Right?
Okay.
So he was a traitor to their cause. That's how come he became a member of the CPP. Later, I think he will also become connected with various regimes, including, I think, at Champons and then in the NDC.
Yes, the National Democratic Congress.
Yes. But in their, if you are going to go through their history correctly, Dr. Bawumia's father was a traitor.
Okay, so he was a traitor to the cause of the NLM.
Yes, and the NPP.
Okay.
So they cannot do any tracing through him.
Even though, like you said, you admit that he was a key member of the Northern People's Party.
He was a member of the Northern People's Party. But then you see, one of the things that Nkrumah did in 1957 was to pass the Avoidance of Discrimination Act, which sought to prevent the creation of regional, ethnic, sectarian parties. So that act made parties like the Gansifimope, like the Anglo Congress, like the Muslim Association Party, like the Northern People's Party, like the National Liberation Movement, which was, as I said, a vehicle for Asante man independence. It made them illegal. And they had to come together under the United Party. But that was, in my view, that was a wholly bureaucratic approach, because today's NPP demonstrates that it is possible to craft an ethnic party which has a presence in every region. So that problem was not cured by that act that Nkrumah passed. But maybe that's another conversation we can have on another day.
That's interesting. So, as at the time they were putting the UP together, what was Dr. Bawumia's father? Had he joined the CPP by then?
No. He was a member of the, he became a member of the UP, and it was NLM basically took over the UP. Okay?
Okay.
Today, when you're talking about today's NPP, you don't hear people talking about the Muslim Association Party. You don't hear them talking about the Gachifim of Faith, except in passing. They even bring in Dombo as and when it's convenient. But the NLM essentially took over what became the UP. The UP itself was launched in Accra, at Bukum. The inaugural meeting of the UP had the NLM present as an observer.
Ghana's gold, Radio Gold.
Bafo Akoto represented the NLM at that inaugural meeting of the UP as an observer. But they will later find it a very useful instrument, which they took over when they did all the others were pushed to the margin. But then that was when they started using the NT boys. And there's this story that I should tell you. It's contained in the, I don't know whether you're familiar with the treason trial of 1963 after the Kulungugu bombing. I don't know whether you're familiar with it.
Not a detailed understanding of it.
I think you should look for the proceedings and judgment of that. I think that the Socialist Forum did a publication on that. But the long and short of it was that there had been a bomb thrown at Nkrumah at Kulungugu. Through the spreading of rumors, some of Nkrumah's key lieutenants had been dragged into it. ALHAJI, Kofi Crab, Adamafiu. So these guys were tried together with one or three, I think was an MP, a UP MP, and some others. But I'm sure you would have heard about the central role of Obeke Lamte.
Yes.
The father of the late Jacob Lamte.
Yes.
One of the so-called Big Six. He was a key figure in putting together the bombing, procuring the grenades, and organizing the bomb throwing. In the north, in Accra, at various places. Lucas House, at the stadium, in front of Flagstaff House, various places. But then he would call meetings with these so-called NT boys, people who have been brought down from the north, and would introduce various people as ALHAJI, or I'm sure you know of Kofi Baku, Kofi Baku's father, who became a minister of defense at some point,
Ghana's gold,
and others.
Gold.
He will introduce these guys to these northern territory guys by their name, by the names of these ministers of Nkrumah, when in fact it was not them. Now, one aide of Obeke Lamte, I think it's called, I think it's also called Odati Lamte or something, spoke to Obeke. I mean, he told him in Ghana that, I mean, basically was telling the Obeke Lamte that he knew that the people he was presenting as Koboduse, Kweku, Boateng, the ministers of Nkrumah to these Northern Territory guys were not, in fact, those people. Are you following me?
Yes.
And Obeta Lamte told him, Temodin, Linonin Theo, to wit, shut up. I know what I'm doing. The truth is that those persons were believed guilty by Nkrumah and were arrested and tried because of rumors that the MPP or the NLM or the UP started spreading in Accra. That Nkrumah's problems were because of infighting within the CPP. So I'm sure you really have heard the story about the bomb that was thrown at Kulungugu and the fact that it was in a bouquet of flowers organized by the CPP in the then upper region. I'm sure you have heard of that story.
Yes, I have.
Yes. There was no bomb in there. There was no grenade in the bouquet. It is not possible. The grenade was thrown from outside when Nkrumah had met the receiving party, and the girl was presenting the bouquet to him. The bomb was thrown from outside into that group. But that was a key element of the UP, knocking heads of people inside the CPP together. And this is contained in the proceedings of that trial and in the judgment. That was, I think, delivered by a panel that included Nanado's father. I think you should look for it.
I would.
Yes. So it was the pressure of the NLM that had taken over the UP of using Northern Territory boys. You know, there are many sayings from that period. For instance, there's a quotation attributed to Kobodu say that you Northerners will use your strength and we Asantes will use our intelligence to run this space.
I see.
So it was in that mode. And Bawumia's father betrayed the secret. And in doing so, also had to jump cross carpet and join the CPP. So in the official theology of the MPP, his father is a traitor.
Oh, okay.
Now, he is being used for just opportunistic reasons. The MPP has come to a fork in the road. They have taken on a northern Muslim vice president. Not candidate, but vice president. They ditched the last vice president. In fact, he was encouraged not to run at all. And when he did, he was sabotaged with insiders that they provided him. But that's another story. But then, if they did not select Bawumia, it will lead to a major crisis. But this thing also leads on to perhaps the most important element in all the story, which is this: that Nanado has determined that it is possible to create a non-Asante majority in the MPP, even while he depends on Asante for votes. And the plan is for Bawumia basically to sit on Nanado's lap so that he can run a third term, which is the only way he can avoid going to prison if Ghanaians are really going to do the right thing. Now, this your leader of parliament who was retelling the story. I'm sure you know it's among the front ranks of those who are going to are looking to partner Bawumia as a vice presidential candidate, right? I'm sure you know that.
Yes, I do. I do.
You know that it's been determined that it will be an Asante who partners Bawumia, and they've been mentioning the names of the Minister for Energy, the Minister of Education, and then the majority leader. I think those are 3 or 4 names I've heard. Must be in that context. So he has to tell a story to the people up north that looks and sounds palatable. Because he cannot call Bawumia's father a traitor that he officially is in the MPP.
Okay. So he was a traitor to the MPP, but an asset to the Nkrumah's Ghana project.
And to Ghana, yes.
Okay. Very interesting. Doc, thank you. Thank you for this trip down history. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, but Doc, before you go, I just want your brief input on this matter of the 24-hour economy. I'm sure you've been listening to the debate thus far. Dr. Bawumia's own input, what the former president is suggesting. What do you think?
Well, I mean, on the face of it, it's common sense. I mean, we live 24/7, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We are connected with other parts of the world. When we are asleep, some others are awake. So it is about employment. It should be possible to arrange things such that services, goods are available. For instance, I'm sure that you have a shift for your work.
Yes, we do.
It happens to be concurrent with the shift that they are running at the passport office. I could give several examples like that. Okay? Now, recently I was doing some work assisting some people with the Bar Owners Association. They said that people were cheating because they could trade in the evenings on pavements and things, just open up something like pubs and bars and sell drinks. And they were not being harassed by the people from the GRA. Why? Because GRA closes after 5.
Ghana's gold. Radio gold.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. So why? We can arrange our lives such that services are available, goods are available, round the clock. It requires legislation. It requires system. It requires security. It may even require incentives, tax incentives, etc. But I don't think that is even key. But that means that many of our people, young people in particular, can employ doing things. For instance, look, there's a great need for people in the space that deals with building regulation. I'm sure you know of that.
Yes.
There are not enough of the people in that space. And they close at 5.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there are people who decide that they will build at night.
A lot of people do.
Yes. What is ever stop us having people who are working as building inspectors in the evenings on shift? I mean, of course, I've heard the response from the Dr. Bawumia and the MPP has been very interesting. It almost mimics the response that one saw from elements in the NDC when Nanado and co brought up this free education exercise. On the one hand, some people said it was impossible. On the other hand, others said that we're already doing it. I'm sure you heard Dr. Bawumia say that.
Yes.
But all you require is some sobriety and some common sense. We certainly have to fix a lot about our current 8-hour economy. Right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't, the problems that we have will only be multiplied with the 24-hour economy. Yet, the 24-hour economy is very doable. All it requires is common sense. And those who don't have an interest in keeping an army of unemployed. Because you know what unemployment does? It's not something that we talk about often.
Okay.
Unemployment puts pressure on wages, on salary.
It puts pressure on wages.
Yes.
Explain, Doc.
Why? If you have a job and you're asking for a pay raise, and there are hundreds of people outside who don't have a job, the employer can tell you to shut up because you can be replaced with someone who will ask for less. I'm surprised you didn't know this, Sana.
No, I understand where you're coming from. But it's just that the way you said puts pressure on wages. I didn't understand it from that angle until you explained. But I understand that argument.
An army of unemployed is key for keeping up capitalist profits. It is not accidental.
I see. Doc, thank you.
Again, my pleasure.
Dr. David Pessey is a student of history and politics joining us this morning. And Nancy was asking why. I guess Nancy now understands the history as told by Dr. Pessey.